Praise God from whom all blessings floweth. What's going on? It's your boy J Hump, aka the Bishop. I'm sure you already know who it is by now. Bringing you greetings from the FPC on tonight. Just got here a few minutes early before Bible study started. Wanted to just kind of post up a video. Hadn't been on here in a few days, so just wanted to kind of post something and see what's going on with y'all. Want to kind of address something that's been on my mind for a long time, and I don't really think a lot of people have the guts to say, but I just want to kind of deal with it and talk about it, just from a musician standpoint and just the overall church in general as a whole. I don't understand what the gap, I'll say. There always seems to be some type of gap between the musician and the church, between the church and the musician, or just, I mean, the administration. There's always something going on in the music department to where there's always some type of big rift. There's always some type of misunderstanding. There's always some type of confusion that seems to be taking place. And, you know, it really bothers me because I think a lot of churches, a lot of pastors, a lot of ministers of music who aren't necessarily musicians always tend to feel as though, you know, as a musician, that we don't really love God. We don't really have a relationship with God. We don't really worship. We don't really have an established relationship with Him. We just do it for the money. We come in, get our check, and go home. While that may be true in certain cases, I don't really think that that's the whole picture across the whole demographic. I think that there has to be an understanding of what has taken place and what has gone on in, you know, not just churches, but just overall in ministry for years. I think that when you don't have structure within your music department, especially when there's not an established order between a minister of music or a music director and the musicians or whoever has been in place of the music ministry, I think it just kind of makes it difficult to really kind of alleviate a lot of the issues that take place, because there's always the scenario of too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Everybody wants to be in charge. Everybody wants to have something to say. Everybody wants to be seen and heard, but nobody really has all of the tools, all of the skills that it takes necessary to get the job done. And it's just unfortunate because me as a musician, I've been playing all of my life. I've been on the road, I've traveled, I've played for many different people all over. And that's all fine and good, but at the end of the day, I still feel it's important that even as a musician to still have a church home, to still have a pastor, to still have a covering outside of just what you do on Sunday morning. And even if where you play is not your church home, I still think that it's important to establish a relationship with the pastor of that church and get an understanding of what his goal and what his vision is for the ministry as a whole. And I think that once you establish that, and I think that once that has been set in motion and set in place, it just makes everything run a little bit smoother. It makes everything run a little bit better. And we as musicians and we as the leaders, you know, the minstrels, the Levites, whatever, especially because we come first in the order of service. You know, we're on display, we're in the front. I think because that level of responsibility has been placed on us, we have to be accountable for what we do. We have to make sure that, you know, we don't just learn the music and, you know, just come to rehearsal and do good with that. We still have to make sure that, you know, we're still living a life of holiness and leading by example. We can't just come in and continue to pimp the church. We can't just always be about the dollar. And I think that when you have musicians that are in position and are in place who actually love God and really, you know, want to, you know, be prosperous, not just in their ministry, you know, financially, but even in their spiritual maturity and growth, and in their life, I mean, it just makes it hard because you just always get stuck behind whack administration. I mean, there's really no other way around it. And like I said, it doesn't, speak against anybody. This doesn't speak against one particular denomination or church or whatever. I just think it just depends on the person. But I do want to challenge and charge all musicians out there, because I do know a lot of musicians all over the country. We have to step our game up, and we have to make sure that we are being held accountable for the things that we say and the things that we do, especially as it pertains to our gifting in the ministry. However, if you are doing everything that you can and you still find yourself in a ministry where it's not benefiting you and it's not prospering you, I still think that you have to make a decision too, whether you allow yourself to be subjected to that. And we can't just allow ourselves to be disrespected and ran over, because we're still human too. We're still people. We still have family. We still have children. We still have bills. We still have responsibilities like everybody else. So, if you're out there and you're a pastor and a preacher and you feel offended by this video, then good. I mean, it is what it is. Especially if you know for a fact that you aren't treating the people that God has placed in your ministry the way they need to be treated. So, I just wanted to kind of get that off of my chest and say that. I mean, there's some other things that I could go into, but I won't, just for the sake of time on this video. However, I just still think that, speaking from, personal experience, I do love God, and I do recognize, from where my help comes from. I do understand the gift that God has given me, and I would never try to use it in a perverted way. The Bible speaks about, do not neglect the gift which God has given you. So I never want to do that, and I don't want any of my fellow, friends and family, my, musicians all over the country, I don't want us to do that either. But we also need for y'all, churches and pastors and administrations and ministering music or whatever, y'all need to understand y'all can't just come and treat us any kind of way, because we're still here helping your ministry out. It doesn't really matter how you want to slice it. We're still here to help your ministry, whether you paying us or not. I've traveled all over the country, and sometimes have been in the best of situations and not gotten a dime, So, and plus, because I am also a minister, I don't need the organ. I don't need the drum. I don't need nothing. I can, preach and, focus on the word. I can sit in the congregation and lift my hands, and I can still get what I need from God. But because I have a job to do, it's important for me to carry out my job. And in me carrying out my job, it's still your responsibility to appreciate what I bring to the table. And not just me, but musicians all over the country. So with that being said, musicians, step your game up, do what you have to do. Pastors and leaders, make sure that you appreciate the people that God has placed in your ministry. And hopefully, when we all get to heaven, we won't really have to deal with none of this anyway. Because when we get up there, oh, what a time it'll be. Well, I'm out this piece. Catch y'all in a little bit. We out.